5 days ago, the city thought the nightmare was over. The killer vanished. This time he didn't disappear. This time, the city watched. From the driver's seat of his unmarked car, Detective Mert watched the chaos unfold. Inside, the driver was just a silhouette, a large, imposing figure. His hands wrapped tightly around the steering wheel, with the only detail visible in the faint glow of the dashboard. His breathing was steady, unnervingly calm. The engine hummed with a low, controlled power, a predator holding its breath. A lone pedestrian, headphones on, stepped off the curb, lost in their own world. They never saw it coming. The car, which had been moving at a crawl, suddenly lunged forward. The engine roared to life, a guttural scream tearing through the night. Tires screeched as rubber fought for grip on the wet road. The impact was sickeningly dull. The figure was thrown aside, a ragdoll tossed out of the frame and into the shadows. The car didn't slow. It didn't swerve. It just continued on, accelerating into the darkness, its red taillights shrinking until they were nothing. There were no screams, no cries for help, just a fading echo of a powerful engine. Panic ignited across the city like a wildfire. Police radios, once filled with routine chatter, were now a frantic storm of urgent calls. Units responding to a hit and run, corner of 5th and Main. Another report coming in. 3 blocks east. Barricades were hastily thrown up, a flimsy net meant to catch a phantom. Helicopter searchlights sliced through the darkness, sweeping across rooftops and down deserted avenues. On the streets, the few people still out scattered. Doors slammed shut, locks clicked into place. The city, vibrant and alive just hours before, was now holding its breath, shutting itself down 1 block at a time. Everyone knew a monster was on the loose, and this time he had the entire shitty grid as his weapon. Just as the police net started to tighten, the car made its move. It veered sharply off the main boulevard, tires squealing as it dove into the labyrinth of narrow back streets. Here the streetlights were fewer, casting long, distorted shadows. The roads grew tighter, closing in. The car's pace slowed, the engine's roar quieting to a whisper. It navigated the tight turns with an unnatural precision, a predator that knew its territory perfectly. Then, in the middle of a deserted industrial alley, it stopped. The engine cut out and an oppressive silence fell, heavier than any sound. A car door clicked open. A heavy footstep hit the wet pavement. He was out. The figure that emerged from the car was immense. A dark coat clung to his broad shoulders, making his silhouette seem even larger in the gloom. He stood motionless for a moment, letting the silence of the alley settle around him. Then his hand moved, reaching slowly into his coat pocket. There was a faint metallic slide, a sound that cut through the night air. A long, slender blade caught a sliver of light from a distant, flickering streetlight. It was the same knife. He began to walk, his pace slow and deliberate, his heavy footsteps echoing with an unnatural loudness in the confined space. He wasn't running. He was hunting. He checked corners, listened to the whisper of the wind, waited for the slightest sound. Deeper in the labyrinth, a figure huddled behind a row of overflowing trash bins. It was a dead-end alley, a perfect trap. Their breathing was a shallow, ragged whisper, a desperate attempt to stay silent. Hands trembled uncontrollably, slick with cold sweat. A shadow stretched along the brick wall, growing longer, darker. The heavy footsteps drew closer, closer, and then past the opening of the alley. A wave of relief, so powerful it was nauseating. But it was short-lived. The footsteps stopped, a long pause, then they started again, turning back slowly. The killer's massive frame filled the entrance to the alley. The knife rose, glinting in the dim light. Just as the blade began its descent, the distant wail of police sirens suddenly grew louder, closer, converging on their location. The killer hesitated, then stepped back, melting into the darkness as swiftly as he had appeared. Armed officers flooded the area moments later. Flashlight beams cut through the alleys, bouncing off brick walls and puddles of rainwater. "Police! Drop the weapon! Show me your hands!" The commands echoed, unanswered. The alley was empty. There was no one there. They found the abandoned car, its driver's side door still hanging open, an invitation to a ghost. The engine was cold to the touch. Detective Mert arrived on the scene, his face a mask of grim frustration as he stared at the empty street. He was always one step behind. It felt like the killer was toying with him, leading him on a chase with no end. Just then his phone vibrated in his pocket. A sharp, jarring buzz in the silence. He pulled it out. The screen glowed with a notification from an unknown number. It was a text message. 4 simple words. You can't block every street. A chill colder than the night air ran down Mert's spine. He slowly looked up from his phone, his eyes scanning the far end of the long alley. And there, under a lone, flickering streetlight, a large silhouette stood perfectly still, watching him. The knife was in his hand, held loosely at his side. For a single terrifying second, their eyes met across the distance. Then the streetlight flickered once more, and when the light returned, he was gone. As morning broke, the first rays of sunlight revealed a city scarred by the night's events. Police tape crisscrossed dozens of streets, a yellow web marking the path of destruction. The abandoned car was loaded onto a flatbed tow truck, a piece of evidence in a crime with no suspect. Inside the vehicle, forensic teams found nothing. Not a single fingerprint. No stray hairs. No DNA. No clue to the driver's identity. It was as if a ghost had been behind the wheel. But on the worn fabric of the passenger seat, they found one thing. A deep, precise impression. A perfect outline pressed into the cushion in the unmistakable shape of a long, slender knife. The city was safe for now, but everyone knew the hunt on wheels was far from over. Thanks for watching. If you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe. The city holds its breath under a blanket of fresh snow. A lone figure walks down a deserted street, their breath a white cloud in the biting air. Suddenly, the night shifts. A hulking man emerges from the shadows of a parked car, his shoulders as wide as the alley itself. His breath comes in heavy, ragged bursts. A glint of steel appears as a knife slides into his hand, a cold promise of violence. The victim is fast, reacting in a blur of motion. They collide with a brutal crack, a tangle of limbs slamming against a brick wall. The knife flashes in the dim light, a silver serpent striking between them. The struggle is desperate, a frantic dance of survival. Just as quickly as it began, it's over. The attacker shoves free, his heavy boots pounding the snow-covered pavement as he runs. In the distance, a sound splits the night, sirens wailing and growing closer. But another sound cuts through the chaos, deeper and more primal than any siren. A low, rumbling growl that seems to come from the very heart of the winter night. At the end of the street, a silhouette takes shape. It's a Sivas Kangal, a police dog of immense size, its massive frame exuding a quiet, focused power. The killer, hearing the sirens and the growl, hesitates, turning back. For a heart-stopping moment their eyes lock, man and beast, hunter and hunted. Without a sound, the Kangal launches forward, a silent, unstoppable force surging through the snow. The chase is on. The killer sprints through a labyrinth of narrow, snowy streets, his heart hammering against his ribs. He can hear footsteps behind him, but they're not human. They are heavy, rhythmic, and relentless. The Kangal moves with a terrifying grace, its powerful strides eating up the distance with controlled speed. Far behind, the shouts of police officers echo, distorted by the wind and the maze of buildings. The killer vaults over a rusted fence, his feet slipping on a patch of ice. He stumbles, catching his balance just in time, and pushes on, fueled by sheer panic. The dog remains a constant, a dark shadow that flows over the white landscape, closing in. He can feel its presence, a weight on the back of his neck, a promise that this pursuit has only one end. He scrambles over another wall, dropping into a darkened courtyard, gasping for air. The dog is faster, more agile, and it never seems to tire. He glances back, seeing the dark shape leap the fence with an ease that sends a fresh jolt of fear through him. The sirens are getting closer, their wails bouncing off the brick and stone, boxing him in. Every corner he turns, every alley he dives into, feels like a trap. The snow, once a pristine blanket, is now a testament to his desperate flight, marked by his frantic footprints and the steady, unnerving paw prints of his pursuer. Suddenly, he slams into a dead end. A solid brick wall looms before him, sealing the alley. Trapped. He spins around, his chest heaving, and raises the knife. It's not an act of aggression, but of desperation. A last, feeble threat against the inevitable. The Kangol halts a few meters away, its advance stopping as abruptly as it began. The air crackles with tension, a frozen moment where time itself seems to stop. From the mouth of the alley, police officers shout commands, their voices sharp and urgent. Drop the weapon! Get on the ground! The killer's eyes dart from the dog to the approaching lights. Defeated, he lets the knife fall from his numb fingers, its clatter swallowed by the snow. He turns to the wall, his hands finding purchase on the cold bricks, and begins to climb, disappearing into the darkness above. The police flood the alley, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. The immediate threat is gone, but the atmosphere remains heavy. They find the discarded knife, but the killer has vanished into the city's vertical maze of rooftops and fire escapes. The officers regroup, their voices low and hushed. They talk about the dog. The legendary Sivas Kangal is standing silently beside its handler. He never loses the trail, one officer murmurs to another. He just waits. He remembers. The legend of this dog is whispered among the force, stories of its incredible intelligence and unyielding persistence. The Kangal ignores the chatter. Its work isn't done. Lowering its massive head, it sniffs the ground where the killer stood. Then the discarded knife, committing the scent to its powerful memory. It lifts its head, eyes scanning the darkness above. The hunt continues. Hours pass. The killer moves like a ghost through the city's forgotten spaces. Abandoned warehouses, derelict rooftops, the skeletal remains of old factories. He believes he's safe, that the falling snow will cover his tracks, erasing his passage. He finds a hiding spot in a dark, cold corner of an empty building and allows himself a moment to breathe, to believe he's finally outrun them. He listens, hearing only the wind and the soft patter of snow. But outside, the hunt has taken a new turn. The Kangal, leading the police team, isn't just following a scent trail on the ground. It stops suddenly in the middle of a deserted lot, ignoring the footprints that lead away. It lifts its head, its gaze fixed on the top floor of a silent, dark building. A soft growl escapes its throat, a sound of certainty. At that exact moment, hiding in the shadows of that same building, the killer feels a cold dread wash over him. He realizes he's not being chased blindly. He's being understood. The dog knows. As dawn breaks, the city is painted in shades of grey and white. The relentless snowfall has softened every edge, creating a scene of serene, white silence. Police teams methodically search the area where the Kangal led them. They find nothing. No killer. No weapon. The only evidence of the night's dramatic chase are the deep, powerful paw prints in the snow.